Are you thinking about starting therapy but don't know which way to go? What are the differences between online therapy and in-person therapy? Well, in today's video, we're going to talk about it. Hey everyone, my name is Tran and I have been in therapy since I was 21. I'm 28 now, which means that I have learned a lot along the way. So I also wanted to share my experiences with you as we go throughout this video. But before we get started, I just wanted to add a disclaimer that I am not a licensed therapist giving professional advice. I am just speaking from my own personal experience. But I do strongly recommend that you do your own research to educate and to empower yourself as you move along your journey with therapy. So with that being said, let's get into the pros and cons of online and in-person therapy. Number 1. Pricing. The pricing is pricey, dude. And I wouldn't want you to think of the pricing as being way too freaking expensive, because I know that actually does hold a lot of people back from seeking therapy. But instead, I want you to think of the pricing as an investment in your future self. Of course, the pricing is going to be different depending on who you go to and which platform you end up using if you're looking into online therapy. For my own research over the years, I realized that in-person therapy tends to be more expensive. Just from Googling and reading random articles, I found that in-person therapy tends to range anywhere from like $50 to $300 per session. And that depends on, of course, where you're located, depending on the therapist's specialization, training, etc., things like that come into play. If you have insurance, they usually help cover the cost, at least partially. But of course, it depends on your specific insurance plan, so make sure you call in ahead of time to figure out how much they're willing to cover. On the other hand, with online therapy, they tend to be subscription-based, and you typically pay on a monthly or an annual basis. I'm more familiar with BetterHelp because I used them for a little over a year, but at the time I was a student, so I was paying, I think, around like $105 to $135 per month. And they also offer financial aid, so you just apply for it and they give you a little discount every few months for a short period of time, and you just reapply if you need to. And I don't believe that BetterHelp actually takes insurance at the time of this recording. So you want to make sure with the other platforms that they do take insurance, because that would help a lot, right? Number 2, accessibility. Accessibility could be a make it or break it for a lot of people. It depends on how busy you are and how often you want to be in contact with your therapist. With in-person therapy, you have to drive somewhere and meet with your therapist in an office setting. And appointments are usually scheduled around the same day and time every week, unless you want to schedule it out further, and then it'll just be a longer time in between. But you're usually not in communication with your therapist until the next time you see them in the office. And I found from my own experience too that life happens. So I could see how this could be really challenging for someone who constantly works or has obligations with family, that it's hard to travel into the office to see their therapist. With online therapy, the apps allow you to meet with your therapist from the comfort of your home or anywhere with a reliable Wi-Fi signal. And with online therapy, a lot of the platforms allow you to just schedule as many times as you want within your subscription period, given that, of course, your therapist has the time for it. And you can meet via live chat, phone, and video with your therapist, and you could even send them messages between your sessions through the app. This was really helpful for me because when my dad passed away in 2020, I remember chatting with my therapist that night, and he had booked me for an emergency session like early the next morning, which I really appreciated it. Like, what a godsend, for real. I can't speak for in-person therapy because I don't know if modes of communication have changed at all. Maybe there's telehealth or something like that. But there are definitely more modes of communication through online therapy, as well as easier accessibility to your therapist through online therapy. Number 3, environment. As I said before, with in-person therapy, you usually have to drive and meet with your therapist in an office setting somewhere. And this is a pro, in my opinion, because that is considered a safe space. And you and your therapist are the only ones in the room, and the setting is pretty much set somewhere away from your normal life, right? With online therapy, you're usually meeting with your therapist at home. So I could see this being a pain for someone who is living in a house full of people, or you don't have a space in your home where you actually have privacy. Like, you obviously don't want people to hear what you're talking about, especially if you're talking about them, right? And that could also be really distracting if there's competing noise around you during your therapy session. And it really comes down to personal preference, to be honest. If you live alone, then that shouldn't be an issue. But if your walls in your apartment are really thin, like mine are, then you don't want your business to be aired out to your neighbor. Number 4, nonverbal cues. I wanted to add this into this list because it was actually a huge determining factor for me early on. I noticed that when I was in in-person therapy, there were times when I couldn't explain or couldn't articulate what I wanted to say. And my therapist would always be able to pick up on my body language, mannerisms that I didn't even notice myself. That, if I were to look like I was about to cry, or I would tense up and wouldn't know what to say, the therapist knew exactly, maybe not exactly, but had an idea of what was going on and knew what follow-up questions to ask. Like, picking up on those nonverbal cues really adds value to the session. Like, okay, if your Wi-Fi signal's pretty good, then you might be able to pick up some of that on video, but you for sure would not be able to get those cues over text messaging or phone calls. And even though that's something that I just prefer, I could also see how that could be distressing for someone with maybe social anxiety or, not comfortable about talking about their emotions in front of someone else yet. So I could definitely see online therapy being a benefit in that case. I wanted to get one more to get 5 differences, but honestly, that probably would have been fluff to fill in space. And in my opinion, these 4 things that I listed are the most important to know between online and in-person therapy. I will say though, that there are definitely limitations to patient care when it comes to online therapy. And if you're struggling with more serious mental health conditions, online therapy is not a substitute for seeking in-person or more involved professional care. There's just so much more to say on therapy, but that'll be for future videos. But if you found this video helpful, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up down below. And if you're new here, don't forget to hit the subscribe button to see more videos on mental health in the future. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!